I, 34 female, had one sibling, 25 female, when she passed, who died in a car crash just 3 months after her wedding. It has now been 12 years since her passing. We were very close and more like best friends than sisters. My now husband, 38 male, Adam, was a constant presence in my family's lives, even after her death, as he would visit my parents regularly and they doted on him very much. 5 years ago, we started getting close and got married 2 years later. My sister used paint as a hobby and had left behind 8 paintings. My parents took 2 for themselves, I took 3, and my parents gave away the rest to her close friends. They offered Adam to take any he wanted, but he refused. I really liked the 3 paintings and displayed them in my apartment proudly before getting together with Adam, as I felt closer to my sister. But once we became a thing, the paintings seemed to upset him, so I kept them in storage instead. I understand everyone grieves differently, and for Adam, anything associated with her triggers him, and he goes back to that awful day when he found out she was gone. We have had no pictures of her at our house or any memento left by her. All this time I've been understanding, but I feel like I've completely erased her from my life, and brought up the subject of displaying one of her paintings to commemorate her in our house the other day. Adam shut the idea down immediately and refused to even hear my side. I was hurt by this, as I've been considerate of him all these years, but he didn't even think to consider my feelings about the situation. It worsened when I suggested grief counseling together today, which made him even more upset. He wasn't yelling, but was clearly distraught by me continuing the subject. He said he already went through grief counseling, and my insistence is just opening old wounds. I was angry at the time, and told him why did he ever consider marrying me when the thought of her makes him this upset, and knowing how much she meant to me. He told me he can't handle me or this conversation anymore, and went to his brothers to cool off, as he doesn't want to say anything he'll regret later. Now, all alone, I'm thinking I might have taken things too far. Am I the a-hole here? Everyone sucks here. You married your late sister's husband? That's just wrong. Did he marry you because you look like your sister? Because clearly he wasn't ready to be in another relationship if he hasn't healed from that one. Not the a-hole. I can understand why it triggers him. He was married to her, and he did lose her too, which is definitely something you need to be considerate of, as this seems like a really messy situation, that you married your sister's widower, and it sounds like he still needs to grieve for her. Update. Apparently, I was only thinking of myself when I suggested bringing out the paintings from storage to Adam. When he cooled down and came back home, he explained his side of the story. It was really hard for him to come to terms with my sister's death, so he decided to start fresh by getting a new house, selling all the old furniture, and starting over. The paintings were part of their old furniture. This is something I forgot to mention, cause, as I said, I wasn't really considering his feelings. Now, many years later, when we both have begun our new life together, he didn't want a piece of his past reminding him of her daily. He said my words really hurt him, as we both have been through so much together, and me questioning all of it during our argument really messed him up. I can't go more into detail of what we discussed because it wouldn't be fair to Adam, but long story short, I apologized profusely for bringing his past trauma up, and he also apologized for the way he handled things. We both agreed we are in dire need of counseling, so we are currently looking for one in our area. Background. Fiancé and I have been together for a decade. We moved overseas away from my small family and closer to his family. 5 years ago, we tried tying the knot, but his sister, let's call her Carmen, had other plans. She threw a tantrum because it wasn't about her, refused to take part in any of the pre-wedding activities. No slave labor type decoration making stuff, but things like wine tasting, dress shopping, specifically her dress as a bridesmaid, cake testing. She couldn't be bothered. She never asked anything about the wedding. But 2 days after Christmas, she decided to throw a tantrum because you have not asked me what makeup I want and what shoes I want. She went on to slander my family. Half my childhood I spent in foster care, the other in children's homes. My parents weren't well. Mental health is a witch. And told me that people like me don't know what family is, and I only care about my partner, but not as much as her. Unfortunately, I wasn't fluent speaking English at the time, at least not ready to counter her aggressive outburst, so said nothing. We went home, a couple hours away, and she went to the rest of his family continuing the slander. Oh, Carmen is 29 years old. His fam picked on my fiancé to a point that he was deeply depressed and struggling with everything. They were not interested in his thoughts and views, but took her word for whatever happened that day. We still don't know the full extent of the lies. The family was extremely proud of her for being foul-mouthed and awful. Our wedding was canceled. Fast forward to 2020, still going strong, despite his sister's continued efforts to spread hate. We are now just laughing when she tries her little lies. We were due to get married this year. Virus hit, postponed to next year. Found a honeymoon deal in 2021, Caribbean all-inclusive. I asked my fiancé if he has anything planned in November. He checked and said no, so I booked it and paid the deposit plus some extra. Now, the am I the a-hole part. The day before we come back, his sister is due to get married. I did not know about it. His parents found out about our honeymoon and demanded for the holiday to be postponed. To them, I definitely am the a-hole because I should have known that she will get married at some point. I forgot to mention, we haven't directly spoken in 5 years, by the way. I am refusing to change the honeymoon, which is now 3/4 paid off, and changing the date would mean a $2,000 increase in price, as the special offer is not valid anymore. I said there is a double standard because if it was the other way around, his family would say something along the lines of, "Shame she can't come, but I hope she has fun." My fiancé said this to them, and their answer? Well, you can't really compare this. Now, Reddit family, be kind, be mean, be chocolate chip cookies, but please, tell me, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. How the heck were you supposed to know they were going to get married when you haven't spoken to them? $20 says you cancel the honeymoon and she doesn't even invite you to the wedding. Take the vacation and cut these crap people out of your life. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You already had to reschedule your special day, and she was an entitled a-hole on everything to do with your wedding when you tried to include her. You didn't know the date when you booked your honeymoon. I've been staying with my mom since the pandemic started. A lot of personal reasons that includes my dad's passing. A few weeks ago, my cousin's wife, I'll call her Sue, called my mom and asked if she needed a landscaper since her brother is out of a job. My mom told her sorry but no, and she will call her if she changes her mind. Sue has called her almost every day after that asking again. Finally, my mom gave up and told Sue that her brother can do a little restyling to the backyard. This was more than 3 weeks ago. Her brother never came, so we thought that he had changed his mind and forgot the whole thing. This week I've been staying alone since my older brother and sister-in-law invited my mom to a vacation, and my other brother has traveled for work. Today, while I was at a meeting, I received multiple calls from my cousin. When I called him back, Sue answered. She told me that she was outside with her brother and a truck full of dirt. I was really confused and told her I didn't know what she meant. She told me they were there to do the landscaping job my mom asked for. I told her that I needed to call my mom to confirm, and she agreed. My mom was as lost as me and told me she'll call Sue to see what's going on, so I went back to work. A few minutes later, my mom called me and told me to let them in and that they would be in the backyard working, that she was mad, but they needed the job. I let them in and also apologized for leaving them waiting outside, then went back to work since we are in the middle of an audit and these days are of high workload. They made a lot of noise, but I didn't complain and just put on headphones. When I was on lunch break, I went outside and gave them a jar of lemonade and noticed that there were 2 other people. I didn't ask about it and told them that if they needed to have lunch, they could order a delivery or go out, that I could open the door as long as they didn't take too long since I had another meeting after lunch. They told me they'd order something, so I went inside to eat, then went back to work. They left an hour ago. I just finished working and received a call from my cousin, who called me an a-hole for not offering Sue a seat inside and not helping the whole day. I told him that I was working and thought the same about her, that there were chairs outside if she needed a break. He told me Sue is pregnant and needed to stay inside, that she felt insulted with my attitude and was demanding an apology. I told him that I didn't know she was pregnant, but that didn't change the fact that I was working, and if she needed to be inside, she should have told me. He told me that I should have known she was pregnant since there were other people helping her brother, and she won't come back unless I apologize. Am I the a-hole? I did leave them outside for a while, and that was rude, but I didn't think anything else I did was wrong. I didn't know she is pregnant, and I was working. I don't know if I should apologize. Not the a-hole. Your cousin and his wife should just be thankful that your mom even accepted their job offer after how the wife acted. Not the a-hole. Why would you help him do a job he's getting paid to do? Next time, tell them to come back when your mom is there. This isn't my house. I can't authorize any work to be done when my mom is not here. Not the a-hole. First, she harassed your mom into getting the job. And then they didn't show up for weeks. So she's lucky you guys didn't tell her absolutely the duck not based on that alone. Also, she's there to work, so it's not your responsibility to make sure she's comfortable at all. It's nice to offer them lemonade or whatever, but not necessary to be honest. I'm getting married, and originally my date was set for June 7th, though we decided to postpone indefinitely. We called everyone who was invited to let them know, then wrote an announcement on social media. In said announcement, we decided to ask for donations to Feeding America in lieu of engagement gifts at this time. Several people bought us engagement gifts already, though it was decided since we're not calling off the wedding altogether, gifts do not need to be returned. In late March, I got notice from Amazon that my cousin, we will call him Jay, bought us several things from our registry, totaling in at around $150 in value. Jay and I have a strained relationship for many years, so I was shocked to see this. When I told my mom, she told my aunt, Jay's mom, we will call her Elle, and she was so happy her son did this. He has a history of buying awful wedding gifts. He bought one of my aunts a board game for her wedding, so she was glad he did the right thing. Amazon deliveries have been delayed, so I've been keeping an eye on the registry. 2 nights ago I logged in and realized all the gifts my cousin bought were gone from the purchase list. I reached out to Amazon customer service, and they told me he either canceled it or there was a shipping error that caused it to be canceled on their end, but they couldn't specify more than that. I followed up with my cousin, only to find out when he saw my post on Facebook about donations, he canceled the order so he could give a donation. That's fine, but he never gave one. Only my mom and a different cousin donated so far, and I posted this announcement 2 weeks ago. And then he said something about planning to give gifts in the future. He just didn't want to add to my stress. I laughed at this. Receiving gifts is far from stressful. I told this all to my mom, and we had a good laugh at how ridiculous the situation was. Then she told it to her other sister. We will call her S. This was all on Friday. On Saturday night, my aunts had a Zoom hangout together, during which Elle brought up some issues she was having with Jay. My mom texted S privately, saying she shouldn't say anything about the gift, but wanted to. S convinced her to say something, so Mom did. Elle was crushed. My mom called Elle later so they could speak privately about it, but telling her added insult to a very shaky relationship between Elle and Jay. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom? In all fairness, I only did because our gifts are being delivered to her place, and she was on the lookout for the package. I didn't expect it to go to this level, and I feel bad for my aunt. Edit. The logic for following up is Amazon registry doesn't provide tracking, so I thought the package got lost in the mail. I don't care about the value of any gift I receive. That's not the point of a wedding. I was more concerned at the time that his gift was lost or stolen. Yes, the a-hole. Why are you chasing this dude up so much for a gift for a wedding that isn't happening? He could probably use $150 now more than a gift for a wedding. He doesn't even know when it is. It might be news to you, but your mystery date future wedding isn't the most important thing in the world to everyone. Yes, the a-hole. Part of the reason people give gifts is because they are going to a wedding, event, and being fed, having fun, dancing, etc. He canceled the gifts because you no longer have a date for the wedding, and probably didn't want to be guilted into buying a second round of gifts. Also, it's not anyone else's business what he buys you, and how much he spent. I'm assuming he is an older adult, and is now being harassed by his mom. You're being tacky by talking about people's gifts. Not the a-hole. There's nothing wrong with talking about this stuff with your mom. It sucks your aunt is upset, but that's your cousin's fault, not yours. My sister-in-law, 22, was in a very messy marriage since she was 18. He's been A and cruel to her, though we didn't know about the A until she left. My husband and I let her stay with us until she was back on her feet. During this time, she announced she was pregnant. She also told us that she didn't want to keep the baby, and she didn't feel ready to parent. She wanted us to adopt her baby, and we've been struggling to conceive. We said yes. She moved out last month and now lives 30 minutes away. She's now 5 months pregnant. Recently, we brought up the prospect of her husband signing the papers to relinquish custody. They're still legally married, but she hasn't seen him since she moved out. She told me that he found out she was pregnant and she got spooked and lied to him, saying it wasn't his baby, that she cheated, etc. I said there's a chance he could sue for a DNA test and then custody if he ever found out. She tried saying that would never happen, but my husband and I are still scared. We told her we can't adopt this baby without knowing there's no chance that she'll be taken away. My sister-in-law says she's not telling him the truth. We told her we're sorry, but then we can't adopt the baby. My husband's side is upset because they think it's irresponsible for her to tell her husband. I think it's going to lead to danger. Mother-in-law says she doesn't want her granddaughter being raised by strangers, and it's our fault she is. Are we in the wrong for backing away from this adoption? Not the a-hole. Adoption is a messy thing, and if you can't get an agreement from both parents, don't. You don't need to get caught up in court because she doesn't want to confront her mistakes. Yeah, it sounds like sister-in-law and family are in panic mode and collectively just burying their heads in the sand. There is no quick fix to this. Regardless of whether or not OP adopts this baby, the husband knows she is pregnant. He can pursue custody or try to establish paternity at any time. This is not just going to go away if someone adopts the baby. If they don't want her being brought up by strangers, then they can adopt her. You are not the a-hole for wanting this done in the proper way, where there could be no legal repercussions should the biological father find out and fight the adoption or apply for custody. How is the adoption even going to happen without all of this being done? Because I'm sure an actual adoption agency or legal professional who deals with adoption would cover this as a stumbling block, no? When I asked how she plans on doing it, she says she'll tell them she doesn't know the father, which is a lie, and I feel will only bring pain to whoever she asks to adopt the baby next.